Hey everyone, Austin here again with another Let's Play video. Today it's going to be Ultraman for Super Nintendo. This is a very, very early Super Nintendo release that probably really isn't objectively good, but I have a soft spot for this game because I played it a lot. As a kid, I knew a couple people that owned this game, and so I definitely spent a lot of time with it growing up. And so I still like to go back to it probably once every couple of years and do a run or two, and yeah, just kind of have some fun with it. It's usually a game that's pretty picked on by, you know, the more mainstream guys on YouTube, but you know, I'm going to show you, I guess not really some tricks in the game. We're basically going to be using a newbie strategy in order to get through this, because it is a tough game. Part of the reason it's tough is that a lot of the moves are kind of useless in this game, and you guys will see what I'm talking about once we get into it, but you know, still, there is some very, very slight fun to be had here, and, you know, we're going to go ahead and run through it, and I'll talk about some of the mechanics and stuff like that. Of course, though, before we get into it, as usual, I want to give a big shout out to my current Patreon backers, so they're going to flash by the screen, so thank you guys for your continued patronage. Also, the live stream super chatters are going to flash by as well. Thank you guys for your direct patronage as well. Also, one thing you can do here on the title screen is hold down the select button and then press start. That'll actually take you to an option menu, which isn't very obvious. You have a couple difficulty selections here. Expert is a tiny bit more difficult than normal, but it's not like a significant increase, but we're going to go ahead and just leave it on the normal difficulty, because I'm sure this is what most people are, you know, have played the game on to start off with. When you do beat the game, it does actually bump it up to the expert difficulty. I thought that it actually defaulted to expert, but what actually ended up happening is I beat the game, came back to the options menu, and it rose the difficulty for me. Test fight here, as long as you've gone through the game once, you can fight up to, you know, any boss you want, basically in a practice mode. So you could practice the final boss if you wanted to, or any other boss that you're having troubles with, and then obviously you've got your music and sound test. But let's go ahead and put that back down to the normal difficulty and go ahead, hit exit. And once we get back here, we will get into the game. So, for those of you younger folks out there, Ultraman was actually a television series from way, way back in the day, even like before I was born. But, you know, it's continued to air over the years. There's DVD box sets you can get and things like that. It's a pretty, you know, these days it's a pretty hokey show, but there were a lot of video games based on it. And this was one of the main ones that actually came out to North America. Many actually didn't come over here. But it was a popular series here, for sure. But as you can see, I'm doing a lot of jump kicking right now, and this is sort of the newbie strategy I was talking about. But there are a few other things that you need to worry about in this game. You've got B for punch, you've got A for kick. If you hold up and A, you'll do sort of a spin kick, which is probably one of the more useful moves as well, if you're close, because it pushes you forward a little bit as well, which is nice. Holding up and B will let you do an uppercut. In the center of the screen, you've got this, you know, these levels, these power levels. Pressing Y, will actually use them, and you'll use a little bit of energy. Holding up and X will let you use a shield. Let's see if we can sort of let this guy attack. He's got a laser attack. Just like that. And it'll actually reflect bullets or projectiles, which is nice. I actually don't usually use that very much, but in my recent playthroughs, I didn't know about it. I mean, I knew about it from back in the day. I was like, isn't there a shield in this game? And I went and looked up on GameFAQs, and sure enough, yeah, there is a shield. You hold up an X, it uses 1 bar of energy. And so maybe in this playthrough, we'll try to incorporate that more, because there are some enemies or bosses later on in the game that have a lot of projectiles, and maybe it would be handy for me to use that shield. I guess we'll see. So yeah, you get points in this game as well. Points are actually pretty important for survival. I should say you get no continues in this game. You only get lives, and when you run out of your lives, it's game over. You gotta do everything from the ground up again. Now, this game isn't that long. There are only like 8 or 9 stages in the game. We're already on stage 2, and when you really focus on this game, you can just pound through the stages really quickly. You know, the game will probably take you 20 to 30 minutes to get through. It's not a very long game at all. Not to say it's super easy. A lot of people have trouble with this game, so But yeah, so this jump kick we basically press the Y button. I'm getting my Super Nintendo control buttons mixed up, as I always do. Thanks, Nintendo, for reversing your buttons. But holding the X button will let you jump, but holding up in the X button will let you do a super jump. And when you're in the air, you can actually do a punch in the air, or do a chop. You have to time this one right. It's really tough to do, and I don't really find it to be all that useful. But if you press A, at any moment, you can actually do a kick. Sort of a drop kick or a jump kick. And that is by far the most useful move in the game. As you can see, I'm just kind of getting over this guy's projectiles. This guy doesn't really like move or hop around all that much. But one other mechanic that I didn't really mention is that you have to basically deplete the enemy's health bar completely to where it says finish. And then by using the shoulder keys, you move your little cursor on the bottom up to the level 4 slot. And as long as you're up to level 4, you use your level 4 attack, you will kill them just like that. Otherwise, you can't kill them. You can use your level 1, 2, or 3 attacks as many times as you want. Even if it says finish, you're not going to kill them. So I like to not use my level 1 through 3 attacks. I like to just wait until it gets up to level 4. Hopefully by then, I've depleted most of their health. I can get it down to finish, and then unleash my level 4 attack and end the stage. Now, you do have to watch out for jumping enemies and things like that. You can actually miss your level 4 attack. They can jump over it. And if that's the case, you've got to let your bar charge all the way up again, which can be a little frustrating. You'll probably end up dying if that's the case, if it's like one of the later bosses. Some of these earlier bosses, not too bad. I'd say probably... I remember this guy giving me some trouble back in the day, but I'd say around stage 5 is where the game really starts to heat up in terms of difficulty. And... As we fight Gudis II, actually. Gudis II is basically like a variation on the first boss we fought, but he's a lot more aggressive, his projectiles are much longer, and he's much tougher as a result. But I'm trying to think of, did I miss any moves? So again, holding up and punch will let you do an uppercut. Just standing and pressing A will let you just do a forward kick. It's one of the more useful moves as well. I like to basically... get in, do a jump kick, and if I'm close enough, just do a kick like that. It's just a quick 1-2 combo. But you can also grab enemies in this game. It's very, very risky, though. And you only have, like, sort of a few frames in order to, you know, a few frame window in order to actually do something. So when you grab an enemy and you press the punch button, you actually do, like, a karate chop. And if you press A, you do a throw. Now, the throw is probably the most powerful standard attack in the game. But, you know, that doesn't happen very often. You can't... It's kind of hard to just walk up to the enemy and just, you know, grab them and then throw them. The enemies have a tendency of being very aggressive when you get close to them. So it's not something I do a lot, but, you know, when I'm doing this jump kick strategy, there are going to be times where I just accidentally grab the enemy because I get so close. And so in those cases, you know, I'll definitely try to throw. But you've got to mash that A button really, really quickly once you grab someone, because you have a very small window of opportunity to actually toss them. But if you can throw them, it's a nice little chunk of damage. So if we can get those off, that'll be great. So as you can see, in between the stages, we basically see the same thing over and over again. Ultraman using the Super Nintendo's good old Mode 7. It's a fun effect when it's used properly, and I think it's used fine in this game, to be honest. You don't really see it in the game itself, but in between the stages, I think it's a neat little effect. But it is the same thing over and over again with just a different background shading. So... yeah, so this guy isn't too bad either, but he's got some projectiles, so I have to watch out for those when I'm kicking. Now, what's kind of cool about, you know, dying in this game is when you come back into the fight and you use a life, the enemy's health bar is actually the same, while yours has been refilled completely. So one strategy I'll do is, if I know that I'm gonna die, I'll go ahead and just use my level 4 attack, you know, knock his health almost all the way down, and then when I come into the next fight, victory is pretty much guaranteed. So we might actually have to use that strategy later on. But I should have mentioned at the top of the, you know, the playthrough, this is not going to be like a flawless run or anything like that. This is a tough game. And I'm not that well practiced at it. I did a couple of runs on Twitch, and I was like, you know, I think I can do a Let's Play on this, and so here we are now. So we're going to be using strategies like that to get through some of these later bosses. Probably starting, maybe even with stage 5. I guess we'll see. So we got 3 lives now. We started off with 2 lives, so we got an extra life, which is nice. We're probably really close to a second extra life as well. Yeah. So here's Gudis II. I actually like some of like the character art in this game. I think a lot of these early Super Nintendo games have very unique, you know, art styles, 16-bit art styles, and you know, this old classic 16-bit pixel art, I think actually has aged fairly well. Whereas if you look at the TV series, it hasn't really aged that well. But some of this art for the Super Nintendo, the first Super Nintendo game, is pretty solid. I like it. Apparently there was another Ultraman game for the Super Famicom. I haven't played it, but I definitely want to try it out sometime. Supposedly it's a little bit better. You do have Ultraman games on other systems. I'm just going to name a couple, but one of them is on the 3DO. It's a very similar concept. Another one is on the Sega Saturn, also a very similar concept to this. There was also an arcade game, there was a Mega Drive game in Japan, and the arcade game is actually a lot like this, actually, but it's not as pretty to look at, for sure. You can see how this guy can actually, he can move forward, which is, when you're doing like the newbie jump kick strategy, it can be, you know, kind of tough to deal with. I'm just trying to play it relatively safe here, because my health is getting low. Let's see if we can do this without dying, that would be nice. I probably should have used my shield there. And we're dead! Well, there goes our first life. That's not good, actually. That's really not good to lose a life at this guy. But he is tough. This is, again, this is kind of where, like, the game starts to get, you know, more challenging. And Gudis II was always the guy that was, like, my brick wall when I played this game back in the day. Like, this is where I would get. And have to throw in the towel sometimes. So we're just gonna kind of wait. Now, you can go backwards with your jump, so when you're doing the jump kick strategy, it's very important that you try to, you know, gauge where the enemies are on the screen, where they're going to be going. See, he just dashed forward like that, and again, I'm just biting my time right now. I'm just trying to keep his health relatively low, but I'm also trying to get my charge up to level 4 so I can go ahead and finish him. See, that's risky. He's got such a long projectile range that, there we go. Very nice. And it's actually kind of funny, when you get close to the boss, Ultraman will actually backflip into place, as to, I guess, shield himself from the explosion. I don't know. A nice little detail. That's not me backflipping, it's the game doing it for me. Alright, on to stage 6. So, now, one of the problems with you know, having low health like this is we're not going to get nearly as many points, and so we're less likely to get another extra life. But we did pass the threshold. I'm going to assume the threshold is like 100,000 points for your second extra life. Just an assumption. But at least we did get our life back, you know, thanks to points. So if you try to 1 credit clear the game, which actually, I mean, you can only 1 credit clear the game, basically, because... you know, you don't get continues in this, you only get lives. I mean, you can look at lives as being continues, but I look at them as just lives, not continues, because it actually says Ultraman 3, so I kind of categorize it as actually being lives. So this guy can be quite a pain. He does this dash, he basically goes to the other side of the screen like that. But you can try to, you know, sort of land on him, you know, sort of go backwards. Oops. See, I grabbed him and I was mashing the A button, but the throw didn't actually work. I assume you can throw pretty much any enemy in this game. Well, yeah, it didn't work again. That's odd. Alright, let's go ahead and use our level 4 attack, because I think we're going to die here. I always die at this guy. Now, you do want to be somewhat aggressive here because, you know, for one, you are timed. 2, the enemy's health actually comes back. So it slowly charges up. And that's it. We died again. Very tough to deal with. I mean, when guys charge at you, there's almost nothing you can do except get out of the way. You can try to punch them, but the thing is, your attacks in this game they take so long to come out, so it's not like, you know, other fighting games where your attacks come out really quickly, or, you know, classic, you know, side-scrolling action games where your attacks come out in, you know, they're there in like a frame or two. It's just like, bam, there's your attack. So if someone was charging at you, you could, you know, say in Ninja Gaiden or something, you could go ahead and just, you know, attack and time it, and you'll just stop them in their tracks. But in this game, it's really, really hard to do that. So just still trying to attack him just to kind of keep his health low. And we're getting close here. There we go, we got it. Yeah, so we've died twice now. We still have 2 lives left. We still have, you know, a few bosses to go, so it's not looking great right now. It's not looking great. By the way, you get a ton of points for having more lives. So if I had 4 lives by the time I got there, I might have gotten another life from that. But, nope. Alright, this guy he's a major pain, man. He hops all over the place. He's very, very difficult to deal with. So we're probably going to end up dying here as well. Same with the final boss. The final boss kind of does the same thing, where he just hops all over the place. Although this guy, I did find that doing, like, your spin kick, actually kind of helps a little bit. And kind of trying to figure out when he jumps helps as well. Like when he does a big jump, you can actually go backwards and do a jump kick, and you'll do some damage to him. Oops, I jumped right into him. Good kick, good kick. Good roll, too. Ended up rolling right under him, which is nice. There we go. Nice, we got him. Awesome, we didn't die, that's great. Although I have to keep in mind that the last time I played through this, I did play it on expert mode, so bosses gave me a much harder time then, and I have to remember that I'm back on normal mode, so, you know, the bosses aren't quite as aggressive as they are on expert. I mean, on expert, that guy's just hopping all over the place all the time. It's like he doesn't stop. Yeah, expert mode is more challenging for sure, but it's still doable. I've beaten it multiple times on expert mode just recently, so it is completely doable. Hey, another extra life, that's great. So that means we're going to get more points on the next stage, assuming we don't die again. And I think this is our second to last boss. I think there are only 9 stages in the game, so hopefully, you know, we can do well here. But we have a couple lives. We've got some, you know, we've got some buffer room here. We've got a buffer. This guy's got a projectile that just goes all the way across the screen, so I recommend just constantly jumping on this guy. Alright, good so far actually, man. Getting some good hits on him. And we're close to level 3, and his health is already close to the bottom. Very nice. This is actually, wow, this is going really well. This is going a lot better than I anticipated. Okay. Unfortunately, he doesn't really jump around. You know, he does like a little baby hop, but he's not going to be able to get away from my level 4 attack. That was a really good fight. I'll take that, because we're going to need all the lives we can get for this final boss. Ooh, I think 200,000 might have been another extra life. That would have been nice. Yep, last stage. It doesn't even say stage 9, it just says last stage. I like it when games do that. They're like, final stage. So this guy likes to jump a lot as well. And it's kind of a pain to deal with. But we're going to go ahead and just sort of try to do lots of jump kicks as always. Continuing our noob strategy of jumping a lot. I mean, the game is, like, one of the reasons people, you know, don't really care for this game is that it's just, everything is so stiff, a lot of your moves just feel, you know, not janky, but they just aren't very useful. Like, by the time you punch, or you try to do an uppercut or something like that, you know, the enemy's too far away, or your moves are too slow, and the enemy's attacks override them. You know, a lot of enemies are projectile-based. Let's go ahead and just use that. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and just die. You know, again, we've got the buffer, so we can go ahead and, you know, just tank, basically just lose a life and not have to really worry about it. So we're just going to wait till our level gets charged up to level 4, and then we're going to hopefully kill this guy. Yeah, I definitely think the game would have been, you know, it would probably be better regarded if it played a lot faster, if your moves were snappier, if the enemies were designed in a way to where your regular moves were actually kind of useful. By the way, the run function there is actually, you only run when you're far away. So if you're too far away from an enemy, you can actually run into them. But you can't really attack while you're running. It's kind of bad. So when you start running in this game, don't get your hopes up like you're going to be able to do something awesome, because you can't. So there's no like running attack or anything like that. Likewise, you've actually hold down and back, you've got this backflip, which will help you get away from enemies. So that is pretty handy. Got him. Okay, and that's the game. That is Ultraman Towards the Future. Gameplay and talk towards the next Let's Play. Stage all clear. Congratulations. Yep, there's another extra life. So I'm guessing 100,000 is your second extra life, 200,000 is your first extra life. So this is pretty much the ending of the game, and pretty much the ending of the Let's Play. There's not a whole lot else to talk about. I mean, like I said, this game, a lot of people don't care for this game. I have a soft spot for it because I grew up with it, and I played it a lot. I like actually how it looks. I really like the look of a lot of early Super Nintendo games. They're just very, very colorful, and I think they've still aged rather well. And the Super Nintendo version of, you know, the first Ultraman is actually, I think, still has aged pretty well in terms of the visuals at the very least. And the soundtrack, it fits. It's not something I'm going to listen to outside the game, but it does fit. So it's not like it's got bad music or anything like that. It's just the gameplay is very sluggish. It's very hard to get into. And in order to succeed at the game, for someone like me, I have to use basically the jump kick strategy. So, you know, if you don't mind jump kicking over and over and over again, you might still want to give this game a try. Try to get through it, and you might actually find some small enjoyment out of it. I'm not going to say it's, you know, the greatest thing since sliced bread. It is absolutely not, but I think there is some enjoyment to be had. But most people just probably aren't gonna be able to get into it. So presented by Bandai. And, well, that's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, I don't really have much else to talk about. If you guys have any questions or comments, or if you have any tricks or strategy you use for this game, definitely post them in the comment section below. Also, thanks once again to all the Patreon backers and live stream super chatters. I really appreciate your continued support. And thank you to all of you watching that are subscribed to my channel. If you're not, feel free to subscribe. I got tons of Let's Plays on this channel and many, many more to come. Also, I do live streams once a week, so feel free to hang out and stop in, say hello, or something like that. So feel free to catch those live as well. Yeah, for everyone else, thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I guess until the next one, take it easy.